Good evening and welcome to Freedom, Speech, and You. I'm your host, Ken, and we have Andrea in chat tonight. Andrea is having a problem and she needs to stay off the camera tonight. So I will be hosting again by myself, and we have one viewer. We have Andrea. I have invited multiple people, but we shall see if they show up later. So good evening, Andrea, and we'll discuss things between the two of us tonight until somebody else shows up. There's no reason to really go wandering off to the topic of the day until we get more of an audience here. So I don't know if anybody's going to show up. I invited a few people. We'll see what they say. So Robin says he can watch, so let me see if I can give him a link. So let me give Robin a link. Okay, so find the link. So there's the show, there's the right show. Turn the sound down so you don't hear an echo. And grab the link. And give that to Robin. Okay, Robin has got the link. Let's see, do we have anybody else? No, that's all we have so far. So Robin should be joining us shortly. And do we have anybody on the others? Looks like everybody's on YouTube. So we have 3 viewers on YouTube. So maybe they will chime in here shortly and tell us who they are. But if you're viewing this for the first time, this is Freedom, Speech, and You. And so we got another message coming in. If I can just get my phone to behave. Come on, phone. Behave and send. Hate when the phone does this and refuses to do what it's supposed to do. What did Robin say? Robin says he just got back inside from mowing his lawn, so he's probably going to join us shortly. So why in the world is this thing being a PAIN pain? Come on, stop being a pain. Let me post. Hi, Robin. Welcome. I'm trying to send the invite to Crystal as well. So if my phone will ever behave. That my phone is just either refusing to copy it because it thinks that I already deleted it or whatever. Who knows? I have no idea. Anyway, if either of you wants to welcome Crystal in, you can send her the link. So anyway. So good evening. So we were going to discuss the January 6th committee, and I don't know if you want to do that right away or if you want to try to see if we can get more viewers here. and we will see what happens. If we can get more people to tune in, that would be nice. Every week we come on at this time. Every week we're trying to get people to view, and so it's kind of a fun thing to try to get people to view for the first time. The pollen count out there is kind of high. So we have, let's see, 4 viewers on YouTube. Looks like some people are tuning in. So once they let us know who they are, we'll settle in and we'll start the main topic for tonight. Obviously, if you have topics, let us know what those topics are. And we'll see what people want to discuss tonight. But let me bring up the article for a second.
Lucky. We'll hear more of our conversation after a break, and Ken Tucker will review Kendrick Lamar's new album, his first in 5 years. I'm Terry Gross, and this is Fresh Air Weekend.
Support.
Okay, so that's got audio on it. I'm going to have to defeat that audio. That's probably got it. Okay, now there's no audio on it. So this is the main topic. And I suppose we can get into that because we have a couple of viewers. People seem to be tuning in and coming and going, and that's kind of the way things are sometimes. So yeah, that's good that you got a new TV, Robin, in time for the hearings. So what the article says is that the House Select Committee is investigating the January 6th attack on the Capitol, and they released an official notice that will hold the first hearing on what it has found so far about the deadly siege on Thursday, June 9th, in prime time at 8 p.m. In the notice made on Thursday, the panel said witnesses for the hearing would be announced this week. At the hearing, the panel will present previously unseen material documenting January 6th, receive witness testimony, preview additional hearings, and provide the American people a summary of the findings about the coordinated multi-step effort to overturn the results of the 2020 presidential election and prevent the transfer of power. This will be the first public hearing held by the committee in nearly a year. During the last hearing in July of 2021, 4 police officers gave graphic accounts of physical and verbal assaults they endured while protecting the Capitol. And lawmakers who had gathered on January 6, 2021 to count and certify states' electoral votes from the 2020 election. So, Crystal's on her way. Okay. I see we have 4 viewers in right now. I don't know who's tuning in and tuning out. So if we have viewers on the way, we can obviously repeat something if you missed something. Over 100 law enforcement officers were injured and several people died after pro-Trump rioters stormed the Capitol to overturn the election results. Altogether, the panel is expected to hold about a half dozen public hearings in June and release a report on its findings in September. Committee members say that hearings will provide a narrative for what led up to the attack, help organize and fund some of the outside groups promoting false claims that Joe Biden did not rightfully win the election, and what then President Trump was doing behind the scenes around the time of the violent insurrection. In recent months, the committee has held several business meetings to approve contempt charges against a handful of former Trump administration officials who refused to cooperate with the investigation. Former White House Chief of Staff Mark Meadows initially cooperated with a subpoena and turned over text messages and emails, but then reversed course and declined to appear on or provide additional documents. Former aides Steve Bannon, Peter Navarro, Dave Scavino also defied subpoenas from the panel. The full House approved contempt charges for all four and referred them to Justice Department. So far, DOJ has indicted Bannon for failing to comply with a congressional subpoena, and his trial is set for this summer. The committee has interviewed more than 1,000 witnesses, publicly subpoenaed about 100 individuals, and received tens of thousands of pages in documents since it was created roughly a year ago. Initially, top leaders from both parties pushed for an outside independent commission to probe the riot, but Republican members decided to oppose that effort and also voted against setting up the select committee. Once the committee was approved, House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy tapped 5 members from his party to serve on it, but Nancy Pelosi rejected 3 of them. McCarthy boycotted the panel. Pelosi tapped Liz Cheney and Adam Kinzinger. 5 House Republicans, including McCarthy, have received subpoenas regarding their communications with Trump and others around the attack, but have declined to appear before the committee. The panel does not have the authority to bring any criminal charges against the former president or any of those involved in the events leading up to or on the day of the attack, but several panel members maintain the Justice Department could take action even without the committee's report. So that's what's going on. And that is the NPR article. There's probably another article of that sort. So let me put myself back in the picture and take this out of the picture. And let's see what the difference. This article radically different. Okay, the CNN article does have different information in it, so let's do the CNN article. So, sorry, that's not supposed to be in the stream. This is supposed to be in the stream. Okay, so the CNN article is slightly different because it mentions different names. So the House Select Committee investigating January 6th insurrection at the U.S. Capitol formally announced Thursday its first public hearing. Okay, that's the same. The advisory does not list any witnesses for the hearing, but says additional details will be released. That's pretty much the same. Committee will present previously unseen material. That's the same. CNN has previously reported that the committee was expected to hold its first hearing on that day and would take place in prime time. So that's the same. Notice of the formal hearings. Not sure if this is too much different, but it says it's a broad overview of a 10-month investigation. While the setup of the hearings has been a work in progress and evolving, sources note the presentations will likely feature video clips from January 6th, as well as some 1,000 interviews from the committee behind closed doors. That could help the committee share more testimony as well as deal with potentially recalcitrant witnesses. CNN reported the committee is starting to reach out to witnesses, informing them of the panel's desire to have them appear as part of its upcoming hearings. And this is different. CNN learned that 2 people directly tied to former Vice President Mike Pence are among those who have received invitations to appear. Former Pence Chief Counsel Greg Jacob and former federal judge J. Michael Luttig have received outreach from the committee about their possible testimony. In addition to Luttig and Jacob, CNN has learned that former Pence Chief of Staff Mark Short is expected to be called to testify as well. All three men have been interviewed privately by committee investigators. In some cases, their testimony has already been used by the committee as part of court findings and subpoena requests of other potential witnesses. So that is different than the other article. And I think both of these articles were released. Well, no, actually, this article is from 3 days ago. So it is a little bit different. So I don't know what else we will find. So it's good to have you here tonight, Crystal and Andrea and Robin. And let me look over your chat real quick. Robin says not allowing Jim Jordan and the two other idiots was a solid move by Nancy Pelosi. Yes. Andrea agrees with Robin that would have been a disaster. Crystal agrees also that was a really good move. Andrea asked, what do you think the outcome will be? Do you think any of this will lead to DOJ Merrick doing anything? Crystal says, are we talking about January 6th? Yes. Robin thinks many arrests. Crystal says hello. I say hello to Crystal. So it's good to have all of you here catching up on your topics. What would you like to talk about tonight? You want to see more of the same? Do you have other topics that you'd like to talk about? Yes, everybody hopes that this will move things forward. There is a CBS News article here. I'm sure there's more. Be curious. And then there's a political article here about how Biden plans to change the January 6th hearings. And that's from 12 hours ago, so that might be interesting. So let's see what he has to say based on that. Crystal says something needs to be done. And Robin says more arrests than Watergate. Yes, it would be nice if they would arrest these people for what they did. So in this article on Politico, the president will monitor but not react in real time. The real audience is the public and Merrick Garland. When the House Select Committee investigating January 6th insurrection starts its much anticipated public hearings next week, the president and his staff will be consuming it like most Americans by quietly watching snippets on TV. Biden and his aides are carefully keeping the distance from the committee's work, commenting rarely, if ever, on the revelations that have come as the House panel pieces together a timeline of events on Donald Trump's knowledge and the involvement in the plot to overturn the 2020 election. For the next public phase in that investigation, their posture will not change. Don't expect instant commentary from the White House briefing room when hearing starts June 9th. Don't hold your breath waiting for Biden to convey his shock and disappointments. Instead, a White House official said the plan is to add the president's voice only when appropriate, and that usually means in emphasizing the importance of protecting democracy and holding accountable those who would seek to undermine and destroy it. Crystal says something needs to be done. Andrea says, yes, I think that it will also get the other states to push their legal T charges against Trump. Treasury charges, I think you mean? Actually, I think that is a wise move for him right now, says Crystal. Robin says, I hope they throw in extended hearings. They have to make this count. It's got to stick. Everything is riding on this. Biden's arm's length approach is driven by concern that injecting political messaging into an ongoing bipartisan investigation could complicate possible law enforcement actions or additional criminal investigations that might stem from the committee's work, according to a person familiar with the White House thinking. The fear inside the White House is that if Biden appears to be influencing the committee or the Justice Department, it would unnecessarily give Trump and his allies more fodder as they try to delegitimize the findings. Crystal agrees with Robin, and Andrea agrees with Robin that things have got to stick. The president has increasingly used a contrast with Trump to frame the stakes of the midterm elections. White House aides believe the president's voice should be used to provide running commentary on day-to-day procedural developments in the investigation. Andrea says that Merrick will hopefully do something. Yes, we hope he will. From now, most Democrats, pollsters, and election security experts think it's wise for Biden to maintain his distance from the proceedings once hearings are finished and the findings are laid out, they say. Biden would be wise to forcefully lay out the public evidence of continued attempts to undermine and subvert the country's elections. Crystal says, well, that won't stop the former guy and his minions in pushing his agenda. And Crystal says she hopes that Merrick will do something. And Robin says even the Mueller report needs to lead to arrest. Don't know if that's still on the table. House Majority Whip Jim Clyburn said, for the president to inject himself, it would unnecessarily politicize the issue. It's better for him to keep distance between himself and those hearings. Andrea says, true, but we have truth on our side. And commenting back to Crystal. One factor that will guide how Biden reacts to any particulars of the hearings is a desire to avoid even the appearance of applying pressure on Attorney General Merrick Garland. The evidence presented and the testimony given could impact how aggressively Garland looks into Trump and his inner circle's connections to the insurrection and other attempts to subvert the 2020 vote count. Andrea says, my real question is what happens once they reveal this? What do we know? Crystal says, yes, we do, Andrea. However, the gaslighting is major. Good question. Well, essentially, the committee could reveal the information, but the Department of Justice would have to produce the charges, I believe. I don't believe the Congress itself can do anything to anybody. The only thing perhaps the Congress can actually do is censure somebody that is involved in the Congress itself. So that the charges would have to be brought in order for the people to actually be arrested. That's my understanding. Can we look that up? Yes, we can. Let's see. So here's a New York Times article, and this is way back from Does it give the date? Because it looked like it said that it was going to give the date. But it looks like it was this year. So let me go in and share. So what this article says, the House panel does not have the authority to pursue criminal charges, but it can provide the Justice Department with evidence of any wrongdoing it unearths in its investigation. House Committee investigating Gen 6. They would urge prosecuting Trump or his allies. That's not the primary mission of the committee, which is planning to write a comprehensive report about what led to the violence. On Jan 6, while making recommendations to try to avoid anything like it happening again. But as the committee and its dozens of investigators issue subpoenas for documents, phone records, bank records, the panel is closely looking for evidence of criminality. What's criminal referral? Criminal referral would merely be a recommendation for the Justice Department to investigate a case. It would carry no legal weight since Congress has no authority to tell federal prosecutors what charges to pursue. But given that the committee staff is led by a bipartisan pair, a former U.S. attorney, any recommendation they make would most likely be taken seriously by federal prosecutors. A referral could also have substantial political impact by increasing public pressure on Merrick Garland, who has largely sidestepped questions about what prosecutors are doing to examine the conduct of Trump and his aides. So it looks like it can only put pressure. It looks like all it can do is put pressure. Doesn't look like. So it looks like they can try to get the DOJ to do things, and it looks like they can try to pass laws to prevent future presidents from doing these sorts of things, but they really don't have the teeth to stop on their own. So Crystal says, I think you're right. They can recommend, but justice needs to do something. Do we know what the law allowed for Merrick to charge? That's democracy for you. It needs to be done right or nothing indeed will happen, says Crystal. I believe that's correct, Kenneth. These hearings can only shine the light of obvious crimes that they know of. Crystal says, now if we can get Congress to do something about voting. Hey, does anyone know when the Supreme Court reveals their opinion, says Crystal. Andrea says, I think they're waiting for J6 committee reveals. Merrick Garland is going to wish they put him on the Supreme Court. Wishful thinking, but I'm holding on to this hope, says Robin. Crystal says, Robin, my gut tells me he won't do anything, says Andrea. Crystal says, I hope you're wrong about that. Robin says, I don't know. Once the sinful comes out, it's going to snowball. Crystal says, I guess time will tell. Yes. Andrea says, so basically no criminal charges will be coming from DOJ, just recommendation. It's anyone's guess. If enough pressure is put on them, they may do something. We'll have to wait and see. I mean, the one thing that could come from this is if the public sees the actual information, those people that can be swayed one way or another may change their votes. So that may have more of an effect than the Justice Department may have. So just have to wait and see, what the public opinion of everything is and how much people ask for the DOJ to do something and how much pressure is put on them. So, but it looks like Biden is only going to talk after the fact. Because that's what the rest of that article says. Biden's instincts is to help unpack the story for the American people, but in a way that doesn't indicate they're trying to influence the law enforcement decisions that Garland and his team will make, according to John Podesta, Bill Clinton's former House Chief of Staff. So Crystal says, isn't the DOJ in charge of doing the criminal charges? They are. It could just be that Garland has been waiting for the Jan 6 committee to release their testimony. Let's hope. Andrea says, if we're going to see charges, it will come from New York, South Carolina, Georgia, and Pennsylvania. Possibly, yes. Robin agrees with Crystal that this is where the power comes from, the DOJ. Crystal says someone has to do something, and perhaps that will start the ball rolling. I hope so. I hope that the committee giving their testimony will actually do something. And you have to wonder if Garland has been waiting for the Jan 6 committee to do what they're supposed to do so that he has the testimony to go on. And maybe he's been waiting back to see, that so that it isn't a case of having it look as though the president said, okay, go get these guys and put them away. Maybe it's that. Maybe he's doing his own investigation. Maybe there's more to it than whatever we've heard so far. One thing I do know is that every time Glenn Kirshner talks about it, he always talks about the fact that you have to do all of your investigation up front. And once you charge somebody with something, you can't investigate them further. So it could be that Garland is still investigating, and that's why he hasn't made any charges. He could still be trying to find out what went on and get everything put together and then release the charges. So let's hope and see what happens. Maybe we'll see something this week. Robin says it's going to be overwhelming that people who don't watch anything about politics will see the obvious crimes. Yes, if they're able to open their eyes. If, however, they are one of these people that is completely deceived and believes everything that Donald Trump says, this isn't going to help them. But if they can open their eyes and actually see what's going on, if they're not involved in things and they just get involved because they watch it as though they're watching Johnny Depp's trial, then yeah, they'll probably figure out what's going on. Andrea says, if Garland plays his card right, he will call this treason and will charge Trump's minions and ban Trump with never being allowed to run for any type of office. Crystal says, I think he is doing that the right way. However frustrating it is for the rest of us, we want them to get it right. Yes. Andrea agrees with Robin that this is going to be overwhelming and that people who normally don't tune in will see something. We hope so. I tend to agree as well. So, have we discussed this topic enough so far, or do we want to discuss other things? What do we want to do? Those people are gone. It's the people who don't vote is where we gain. Yes. Yes. The people who can't be moved to abandon Trump are gone out of there. They can't be fixed. But the ones that don't vote at all are the ones we could gain, and the ones that actually, tune in as we get closer to the election, those are the ones we could gain. The critical thing we need to do as a Democratic Party, though, is to make sure that we translate everything and get all of this information out there to the people that don't speak English so that they're not getting a different translation that's totally bogus about what goes on. I mean, we need somebody within our party that's going to ensure that when the news in other languages is playing anything about the Jan 6 committee, that it is accurate, and it would be nice to see somebody who can actually translate live on the fly tell us that there's actually, a translated version going out to people that lets them know what was said. Andrea comments to Robin, part of it is most of the GOP died or they are so deluded by Trump and see this may change. Robin says, I didn't even think about that, Kenneth. Well, see, one thing about living in Florida is being able to see what the Florida Democratic Party was discussing with the most recent election, and the fact that the ads going out to the Hispanic community, in particular those who came from Cuba, a lot of the ads that Trump ran were deceptive. They painted Biden as a socialist in the light of Fidel Castro, and so that just kept people from voting for Democrats, and that's why Florida basically went to the Republicans, because those people that vote in predominant numbers that are Hispanic, and especially the Cubans, voted for Trump. And the other thing going on in our state was the fact that we had deceptive advertising and deceptive candidates, because we had in 3 different races for somebody that I believe was State House of Representative. We had 3 different cases where somebody ran as an independent that really didn't have any kind of thing on it. And let's suppose that the name of the Republican candidate was John Smith or David Johnson. They had somebody with a similar name like Smith or Johnson run so that people would think that there was an independent candidate and that they were voting for the independent candidate. And so this independent candidate stole votes away from the Democratic candidate. And so the elected candidate ended up being the Republican. And in all 3 of those races, this independent candidate that was run was put in there by the Republican Party. And in all three of those races, that candidate never showed up at any rally or anything, never spoke anywhere, didn't even have a picture for the news media to use. So dirty trickery. Crystal says that deception was Trump for sure. Yes. Cubans remember Castro's regime. Blows my mind that they believe Trump, says Andrea. Yep. You know, though, these three fake candidates, I think they prosecuted all three, or that they've actually prosecuted one out of the three for running as a fake candidate. I think they actually got them for that. It was 3 different races. Let me see if I can come up with that. 3 fake candidates for state representative. Florida, 2020. Central Florida ghost candidate, other figures tied to scandal. Okay. Are you going to get me? This is exclusive content for subscribers. Shoot fire. Okay. See if I can get around that. Well, come on. Nope, can't get around it. It's too smart for me. See if I can find ghost candidates, Florida. Washington Post. Okay, this should work. All right, share that page. Okay. 3 face charges, ghost candidate scheme to influence 2020 Florida Senate election. I don't know if you can see that at home. 3 people are facing state charges related to scheme to influence Florida Senate race with so-called ghost candidate during the 2020 election, according to Florida Department of Law Enforcement. FTLE said Jessica Iantani, age 36, who ran as an independent candidate for Florida Senate District 9, accepted illegal cash campaign donation from political advisor Eric Fogelsong, age 45. FDLE said 2 falsely used the names of other people as contributors in campaign finance documents skirting Florida laws on campaign campaign contributions. A third person, Benjamin Paris, is accused of providing the name and address of one of the people falsely used in the campaign finance reporting. Paris is the former mayor of Longwood and currently chairman of Seminole County's Republican Executive Board. Iannotti faces several charges, including commission of a false, fictitious, or fraudulent act, statement of representation, accepting an aggregate cash contribution from the same contributor in the election, and false reporting or deliberate failure to include information. Vogelsong also faces several charges related to illegal campaign contributions and commissions of a false, fictitious, or fraudulent act, statement of representation. This is not the first election Vogelsong has been arrested for. He pleaded guilty to grand theft with the Political Action Committee in 2019. Part of the plea deal, he was placed on supervised probation for 3 years, and the judge withheld adjudication since he had no criminal record. Paris faces one count of making contribution through a name in an election. According to the original reporting from Orlando Sentinel, the purpose of the campaign was to use Iannotti to siphon votes away from Democratic Patricia Sigmund to help State Senator Jason Broder, a Republican, win the election. That's Seminole County. Broder won with 50% of the vote, but it's not clear that Iannotti's candidacy helped Broder. The Sentinel alleges that the scheme in Seminole County was similar to one in South Florida, in which a ghost candidate, Alex Rodriguez, did succeed in siphoning votes away from the Democratic incumbent, Jose Rodriguez, and helped elect the Republican challenger, Elania Garcia, by 32 votes. Rodriguez pleaded guilty last year to accepting illegal campaign donations and lying on campaign documents. That was in Miami, I believe. State Attorney Phil Archer, whose office will prosecute the case, issued this statement Tuesday. Some no party affiliation candidates, commonly referred to as ghost candidates, have been used by political parties as a way to close elections or siphon off votes. While it's not illegal per se, many have questioned the ethics of the practice. However, when that candidate and the partisan political operatives involved violate election finance laws by illegally funding those races and filing false reports, it's the responsibility of the government to act. So that's what went on. We saw in 3 different races, including Seminole County and including South Florida, which I believe was the Miami area, where they did this. So Crystal asks how everyone is doing. Andrea responds. Andrea tells Crystal how she feels and what she's got tonight, and says it could be worse. I could be a Peachtree dish. Robin says, I'm doing good. How are you, Crystal? Crystal laughs. Robin laughs. I'm doing okay, thanks, hanging in there. I clicked on the thing and I jumped. Sorry. Then there are pleasantries exchanged about the grandson. Democrats have to think out of the box. We should run fake Republicans. I'm not even kidding. We could. The only thing is we can't violate the campaign finance law. And then there's more discussion about family health. Can I get to the point? So there's more discussion about family help. Andrea says they are the GOP. Okay, so most of that was pleasantries. I'm doing pretty good tonight. Thank you for asking, Crystal. It's always good to have people watch the show. So, and I don't know what you want to talk about right now. So let's see. Do you have any topics for tonight, or do you all want to go away and go watch Richard, since Richard started up his show moments ago? If you all want to go watch Richard, I would be obliged to let you go. So let's see what you all say. You want to keep talking about topics, or you want to go watch Richard Ojeda? So we'll see what the audience says. Yeah, I'm doing okay. I don't want to talk too much about my situation. I do have somebody that I talk to, and that somebody helps me a whole lot. And so, rather than tell the audience a lot about my situation or bring everybody down, I'll just say that it's been about 2 months, and it's almost 3. It's 11 more days until it's 3 months, and I'm still adjusting to it. And it's just, what happens when you lose somebody. And so, and it's particularly rough when you lose your spouse. And so that's just what happens. And the person that I'm talking to, I sometimes annoy, and I'm, lucky that that person puts up with me. And that's kind of the situation I'm in. So, but yeah, I have good days. I have bad days. I have days when I feel really down and I really need somebody to talk to. So it's good to have this show, and it's good to have the other shows where I can talk to people and interact with people. So anyway. And Robin, thank you. And I'm not sure what you mean by Ojeda, Andrea. Crystal says, just know we're thinking about you. Thank you so much. Yeah. One of the reasons why I won't get into too much stuff is because if people do tune in later, they won't know what we're talking about. And then they'll go, oh, he's personally occupying the broadcast. So, and last week I kind of got a little too personal. So with things and stuff, or was it the week before? I don't know. Some of these weeks run together. Yes, one day at a time. The biggest problem with being a guy and losing your spouse is that you want to move on quickly. So, that's one of the problems with guys, is that we want the physical attachment and we want to move on quickly. And the rest of the world, particularly the women, are like, no, you have to have their emotional attachment, and you have to think about things and make sure you're ready to move on, and that you're not going to have a crisis or whatever later on in life. And I did say that I wasn't going to talk about this, but I will just say what I have said already openly in chat on other live streams. I do have Grease Share to talk to, so I have a group of people that I talk to. I can't talk about what we talk about there, because that is a private conversation on what they discuss. And the only thing I can really talk about is the topics. And I have people that I talk to, like yourselves, and I have a counselor that I talk to about other issues. So that is helping me out. But sometimes I just get frustrated, and there's other things to my loss of my spouse that are involved, particularly the fact that she was ill for a long time. And so, I'm eager to move forward, and I need to give it more time and more consideration and more thought. And so I will do those things. But yeah, it's good to have this every week. I feel like I'm repeating myself. So it's okay for you to ask about these situations. And it's okay for you to be concerned. And it's appreciated, because the funny thing about grieving is that a lot of the rest of the world thinks that when they came to your celebration of life for your spouse, or when they came to your funeral, or when they sent a card, or when they talked to you on the phone, that was all they had to do. And they go back to their regular lives. And then you're left to figure out what to do with yourself. And you're left to figure out a lot of other things, about your obligations to that person, to that spouse, about how you handle everything. And so it's just kind of like that. So I would tell people that it's important to get into a grief share group or something of that sort. I would tell people that if you need counseling, if you have old issues regarding your relationship, that you should seek counseling. I would tell people to talk to friends and people that'll talk to you, and don't be surprised if the people that talk to you are the people that you least expected would talk to you. And I would also tell people that I'm going to hold up the phone, that social media sometimes has resources for you as well, because I found that there is a podcast for there's a podcast for widowers called the Widower's Journey Podcast, and it's an audio podcast, and I highly recommend it for men who are widowers, because it can help them. And they say that sometimes the women pay attention to this content too. So we all have those things. There are a lot more books, according to the creator of the podcast, for women. There are a lot more books for widowers, because women tend to write books and they tend to talk about things. There's really only like about one or a few books for men. So if a book helps you too, go out and get one of those. And just know that, usually there's somebody out there that knows what you're going through. Like I said, I can't talk about personal experiences of people, but in the grief share group, there are people from every aspect. So you have people that have lost spouses, you have people that have lost children, you have people that have lost people that they were going to get married to. So you have all different kinds. And so, that is something. And the other thing that I chose to do was that I chose to use a grief share group that was online, so I didn't have to go in person, and that way, deal with the aspect of that each week. And the thing that appealed to me for that was the fact that I wasn't like seeing people that I knew. And so it wasn't like a case of, when all of that was over, that I would keep seeing those same people and in my mind going, oh, hey, that's so-and-so. And this is the person that lost this person in their life, and then I won't, so if they want to remain anonymous, we're not staring at each other in the same church or something to that effect. So, I don't know if you're connecting, reconnecting. I don't know if your connections went down. The viewer count went down to 1. So probably you're connecting and reconnecting, or it's just StreamYard being funny and not reporting how many viewers are actually watching. And hopefully I didn't just make everybody leave. Yes. It's a small world, says Robin. Crystal says most people think of the women and forget that the men have grief. And Andrea says people forget men have grief. Crystal says, like abuse, it hits all walks and kinds of people. Crystal says that's not right, that everyone needs to grieve in a way it helps them and take the time they need. This is true. This is one of the things that they teach us in Grief Share, is that you will grieve differently than everybody else. And so that's essential. And they teach us that they teach us to be kind of aware of that, because people will say, in comparison to you, well, I had this happen to me, and this is just exactly the same as you. And they say, sometimes you have to tell them that it's not the same, but you have to be diplomatic about it. Robin says his connection is being problematic. Yeah, the funny thing is I've had connection go and come and go on here. And Andrea says YouTube is having issues. That's possible. You can look at the crowdsource reporting and see. Ohida's having trouble with his show. People always wonder when I go into chat and say that I know that there's a problem. There's 3 different sites like this, and this is how I always know that there's a problem. I go to one of these sites and look at the graph and see, does the graph show that people are having problems? There's the graph, and there's how many people are having problems right now with YouTube. And there were more people earlier. So oh, you're welcome, Crystal. We've been kind of doing this for a while. Andrea might remember for how long. I think it's maybe been something like 8 or 10 times. I can go back to my thing. I can go back to my folder. Robin says his internet is usually worse when he's charging, and it's probably because they barely have internet. Crystal says YouTube's been acting up lately. It's possible. I think a lot of social media has a lot of trouble. Andrea says, thing about grief when my husband passed was once funeral's all done, everyone forgets you. Yes, this is my experience as well. A lot of people forget you and they just go back to their regular lives. And the other thing is you find that there are people that say that they will show up at the funeral, but they don't. So, they're trying not to hurt your feelings, but at the same time, they don't want to go. So, or they couldn't go because something was going on. So that's possible. Robin says, I live 1,000 foot off the road. They have fiber optic high speed to 30 feet away from your house. I live where I have ATT Uverse internet, and my neighbor across the street on the opposite side of the street and one house farther along from the box can't get service, or they couldn't get service when somebody tried it. So I don't know if they ever did get service or no. So Crystal says, back to Andrea, that's when people are needed after we've done the busy stuff. That's when we really need someone to check in. Yeah. Andrea says, my husband passed 5 years ago and I don't hear from his brothers anymore. I've seen the invites, but haven't been able to log in, says Crystal. Some of the invites prior to today have always been ones that I made with tinyURL, and it's possible that your browser wouldn't open those because of a redirection from tinyURL. I'm not sure, but tonight I used the website instead, and so the website sends you to the website. And when you go to the website, you just click on it and say, I want to go to YouTube, or I want to go to whatever. So, and I don't know if that's what you got or if you got the YouTube link from Andrea. But yeah, there have been some issues sometimes with invitations. The funny thing was I sent a Facebook invitation to somebody tonight, and she said that she couldn't use it. And then I sent her the website link, and so I'll have to put the website link into the video, because I have the video and it has the tiny URLs, but I need to update it now to put the website link in there. So it looks like I have a new follower, but I don't know if that's just another follower that, yep, another one of those kind of followers. Honestly, if I were completely and totally bored with myself, for some reason, by having this and saying that I'm a single man or whatever, it's like women just like follow me on Twitter, and it's like, and when I see that their only purpose is to share their photos and that they may or may not be women, poof, 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 they all get blocked. You can only get satellite internet, but you are so close. DirecTV is pretty good. Where do you live, Robin? What state? And Andrea has Spectrum, and she seems to have good good whatever with Spectrum, but Spectrum here in my city is not as reliable all the time, although there is a Spectrum connection nearby. Rockport, Indiana. I think I went through that area. I think I went through that area in 2017. Rockport, Indiana. To Indianapolis. What highway is that? I might have gone through Rockport, or I might have just got close to it. Actually, we went through Louisville. Yeah, I was close to it because I went through I-65 in Louisville. The only way I would have been in Rockport is if that's where we chose to stay. I'll have to look and see where it was we stayed and whether that was Rockport, because it could have been. That name sounds familiar. In 2017, I went all the way from Florida all the way up to Wisconsin by car and all the way back with my wife. I'm going outside and take a picture of the high-speed waiting. We'll post in Hal chat. Does that mean that they're supposed to complete the fiber circuit to your house eventually, but they haven't done it yet? Is that what that means? Kind of wonder. Robin from chat. So close. He posted a picture. Okay, let's see what. Post the picture. Okay. And share that. So this is how close Robin is to the pole. Just like right there. Yeah, it was a long drive. There was a reason why we did that though, because the reason why we took such a long trip was to make sure to be able to visit as many people as possible. Because if you fly, you're probably only going to go to 1 to 2 destinations, but we went to multiple destinations and saw multiple people. So we saw an aunt and an uncle, a sister and a brother-in-law, a friend from online, members of a whole family, another friend from online, and 1, 2, 3, 4 other members of the family, and then another family. So more than 10 people. I want to say the number of people we saw was probably about 15 to 20 people by going around on the trip like that. Okay. And I just got a message from Lynette that we're on, I told her that we're on right now. Okay. So what are we talking about? We are closer to Owensboro, Kentucky, and usually do our shopping. Gas is cheaper in Kentucky. Crystal says, just saw on Twitter, says a California middle school removed a history teacher who told her students that Trump is still president. His name is John Cooper, asking if the school is the right decision. My question is, how is it okay to tell your students, but not actual history? Oh, wow, says Andrea. Good for California's school system. It's one thing to think that it's not right to lie because you wish it was so. Oh, John's the person you follow, and I kind of thought that might be so. I'm sorry I'm always drinking water on stream, but I have to. I can't hide behind turning off the camera today because I'm the only host, so sorry about that. It's preferential to coughing on stream, though. Okay. So we're talking about Midas touch, and Robin says, I've been blocking people on Twitter lately. Bots should be illegal. I think a lot of these people that attach onto us because we're in certain streams are bots, and some of them attach onto us because they want to do certain things. I know that people attach onto me because of my posts about space, and they think that they can sell me Bitcoin. That's one of the things I get. But I also get these women who follow me who think that I'm an old guy with a beard and I'm going to just jump into their Twitter and go to see their social media and whatnot. So Crystal says of Midas Touch, I don't always watch their podcasts because they are long and I get them at odd times. Life interrupts my research and looking at things. And Andrea mentions that you should be following Political Girl. She is good, and Mary Trump. And Crystal says, I love her and Mary too. So, yeah. I think we had a topic thing with Political Girl last week. I don't remember what it was about. We could look over there today and see if there's anything new and interesting. So, Political Girl. "42 minutes ago, Political Girl quoted, I was frustrated about the 2020 results, so we did something about it by passing voter suppression laws. Apparently, Brian Kemp admits to passing voter suppression legislation due to his frustration over Democrats winning in 2020. He'll hate it if this video keeps getting retweeted, so let's make sure he hates it even more." So this is what she tweeted 42 minutes ago. So let's bring that up. And let's bring that in. I got to bring it down. And I got to share it. And use this.
Especially
so, boom.
Something about it with Senate Bill 202. Does anyone else with the results, especially at the federal level? And we did something about it with Senate Bill 202. I was as frustrated as anyone else with the results, especially at the federal level. And we did something about it with Senate Bill 202.
So he passed a bill so that
actually at the federal
changed the election. Okay, so what else does she have on her page? So Lynette is messaging me. So I'm going to put, depending on which link you click, the first one is YouTube, comma. The second one is Facebook, comma. And the third one is the website from which you can choose which platform you want, period. Hi, Jim. So here's a little history lesson that was retweeted by Politics Girl. This comes from Rex Chapman. And let's see this history lesson. So go in and get this, bring this up, and play this.
Now, the government's right to regulate weapons on an individual basis, it was never controversial. The colonies rarely allowed Black Americans to own guns, even if they were considered free. There were laws against selling arms to Native Americans or Catholics. Throughout the 1700s, every gun had to be registered. You couldn't carry guns around town, and certainly not loaded. There were gunpowder restrictions. In Boston, there was a fine for having a loaded firearm in your house or barn. Same in the 1800s. The most famous shootout in U.S. history at the OK Corral between Wyatt Earp and his longtime enemies. That was over Tombstone, Arizona's ordinance against having a gun without a permit, which even for cowboys of the Wild West was common sense. In most towns, you checked your gun before entering, you received a token, and got your firearm back when you left. There was no such thing as concealed carry in southern states. That was banned. And the courts repeatedly asserted their rights to regulate firearms as they saw fit. And it was the same in the 1900s. In 1934, an old Union soldiers' gun club called the NRA testified in support of the first federal law to crack down on machine guns favored by mobsters. In 1959, 60% of Americans favored banning handguns altogether, according to a Gallup poll. Through the 60s and 70s, the NRA and California Governor Ronald Reagan pushed for gun control, especially when they saw armed Black Panther members patrolling Oakland neighborhoods. The Republican Party platform included restricting the sale of cheap handguns. But the civil rights movement had started a panic in white America. They elected Nixon in support of his law and order campaign, that age-old dog whistle for cracking down on insurrections. In that century, it was Martin Luther King's march in Birmingham and labor strikes in Detroit. But it was in the 70s that the NRA began dumping millions of dollars into propaganda to overturn 2 centuries of legal consensus over the meaning of the Second Amendment. The new gun lobby spoke directly to Americans with a deep tradition of paranoia, the one that they'd inherited from the British Puritans of Salem, Massachusetts, who then, over the centuries, like some horrific game of telephone, had twisted the Gospels of Jesus, which preached unconditional love and care for the poor and oppressed, into battle hymns for tribal warfare, justifications for the confiscation of land, and tribal domination with violence and cruelty. A so-called Second Amendment remedy was grown from the crime scene that is American soil, a remedy for any witchcraft outside the walls of the colony that might threaten its Puritan citizens sent here by God, a gross embodiment of personal ambition, greed, and power. The gun made people feel protected, safer, but of course it did the opposite. In 1991, the retired Chief Justice Warren Burger, a conservative Nixon appointee, described the NRA's lobbying efforts to rebrand the Second Amendment as a protection for individual gun rights, quote, one of the greatest pieces of fraud. I repeat, the word fraud on the American public by special interest groups that I have ever seen in my lifetime. Finally, in 2008, after 2 more decades of lobbying, and thanks to a final push from a few libertarian lawyers, a right-wing activist court ruled that the country could ignore the first half of the Second Amendment and disconnect it completely from military service and just pretend that it supported the new popular politics of the time. Justice John Paul Stevens, another Nixon appointee, called it the Supreme Court's worst decision of his tenure. And today there are fewer gun laws in Tombstone, Arizona than there were in the 1800s under Wyatt Earp. The meaning of the Second Amendment has been turned completely upside down. It was created to squash insurrections, never to justify them. Its purpose was to draft the white labor class into protecting the interests of their white lords and masters. You've been used, former Republicans, as your ancestors were used. You've been spun so far around for so long that you think in an epidemic of mass shootings of churchgoers and school children that it's Jesus Christ who wants you to keep buying guns, who wants you fantasizing about them, who wants you taking them everywhere you go into shopping centers and schools, who wants you concealing them and then parading them around, marching with them, marching for them. So you have a choice. You can keep yourself shackled to the ghosts of those English tribal lords who claimed God himself commands you defend their hierarchy with your life in their long war against reality. But you know that road is a dead end. You can also choose another path, and you can unite with a nation that wants to learn from its mistakes, that wants to grow and evolve for the good of all the tribes of humanity. And you can rejoin the land of the living.
Hey, thanks for watching the video that I put on because I've been trying to explain to Lynette how to use a website. Which seems to be a lost art. Okay, so we have Robin and Andrea and Jim. This is good. Play the whole thing. That was the whole thing. Did you miss part of it somehow? That was like a 5-minute video. Was there supposed to be more to it than the 5 minutes? I don't know. But that was what was played for 5 minutes. So I'm not exactly sure. I mean, that came from Rex Chapman. And it says it comes from Matthew Cook. Matthew Cook is the narrator. There's a 5-minute 56-minute version on Now This. So maybe there was a portion of it that was cut out. I don't know. Let's see. So let me go and share the screen. And let me stop it so I can shuttle it back and enlarge it and get myself out of the screen before I start playing it.
This is a message to Republicans. You keep saying that we want free stuff and that the government can't do anything right. So you need an education. The microchip, the internet, GPS, touchscreens, space travel, those are a few examples of world-changing technology that was created by our government. or required massive financial support from our government. Now, I paid for that with a third of my money in the form of taxes, but I didn't get a return because all our technology was just given away to private industries, and then it was sold back to us so that someone else could profit. And that's what free stuff looks like. Am I supposed to pay money to breathe, or have access to water, or community, or civilization, or is that my natural right, being born on the planet? Because that's what economic rights mean. They mean I have a right to participate in the economy without having to be born into the Trump family or some other social predator's bloodline. Now, I'm going to teach you another word: democracy. Now, wannabe mobsters, they love saying the government's bad at everything. When a government's ruled by the people, it's called our voice. So it's not bad, and you're not going to silence our voice. And whether it's the oil industry or the criminal justice system or the International Monetary Fund or Facebook or Congress or the presidency, if any organization becomes oppressive and unaccountable, that's tyranny. And then when we make them accountable, that's democracy. Now, Republican leadership today, they're against democracy, and they're not even trying to hide it. They're only in power because of an undemocratic electoral college that was created by slaveholders. They're only in power right now because we have an undemocratic institution called the Senate that gives a single resident of Wyoming as much voting power as 68 people in California. Because every state gets 2 senators, doesn't matter how many people live in them. And Republicans love that. They love how millions more Americans vote for Democrats but don't get any representation, because they love free stuff, just like the founding fathers. Well, guess what? Slavery's over. States are not people. Corporations are not people. Concentrated power and wealth and a master race and master culture, none of that is democracy. And your sacred constitution is long overdue for a rewrite, as holy of a document as you've been thinking it is, conditionally, of course. Because even the empire-hungry colonists would have been disgusted by your handing over everything, sir, yes, sir, to the lords and ladies of big box stores, oil, and money that Republicans are worshiping today. The American dream made us famous all over the world. We gave people hope. But Republicans love it so much more now that people have the worst chance at making it here than any other rich nation. They prefer the class system, the caste system, extreme inequality, and poverty, because keeping other people down, the communist, the Mexican, the scary pronoun, whatever word they want to give them, it makes them feel superior, like the old days, scared and demonizing whatever's out in the woods, outside of the colony. It doesn't matter that their lives aren't much better. They're living through the achievements of their gods, icons of money, power, cruelty, and dripping arrogance. And that's why they love a fabric flag more than the human flesh and blood that live and die under it, because they're idol worshipers. And that is exactly what Jesus and Muhammad and Moses told you not to do. How dare you invoke the name of the Almighty and his messengers against the weak, the meek, and the poor? The prophets led movements of the persecuted before they were overtaken by the persecutors, who allied themselves with totalitarians like you're doing now with modern-day Saudi Arabia and Israel under Netanyahu and this radical Christian cult, all for a dirty oil empire that is soaked in the blood of men, women, and children, and all the creatures of the earth. Now, when Republican leaders say they love freedom, they love the freedom of unchecked domination. And their followers, they love the freedom to live out some paranoid revenge fantasy of needing a firearm in case their superiority gets challenged in a Walmart or on some street in Portland. If you're wondering what set me off, I just saw how the right-wing PR machine's uplifting war criminal soldiers that the Navy condemned and their dear leader pardoned. And I guess some people on the right want these savages to campaign with their master as heroes. And they think a Navy SEAL calling out war crimes is somehow political correctness. Well, my grandfather would disagree with you. This Republican goon squad worships the government when it gives them illegitimate authority over the people. Then they march in lockstep, drunk with their abuse of power. Oh no. You can't have our democracy. You can't make it a great republic for slaveholders and wage slavery. Not again, not now, not ever. We beat you and your masters in the Civil War. We beat you on the beaches of Normandy. We beat you in Birmingham, and we're going to beat you again, because the truth wins. And you can stand by while all our communications networks get drowned in some Russian psychological warfare. You can redraw all our maps with a Sharpie, You can keep suppressing the voting rights of our Black, Brown, and First Nation brothers and sisters. Go ahead. Keep using the old slave laws to false multiply your votes. Keep tricking all your scared, angry, ignorant old white people into supplication before your orange golden calf. But we're going to beat you. We're going to replace you. And we're going to change the culture. If not this election, then out in the streets. Because you cannot have this land. You cannot have this country. It was never yours in the first place.
Okay, that was a different video, but I've been trying to explain to Lynette in the background how to get onto our stream tonight. So that was a different video by Matthew Cook. And apparently I'm given to understand from your comments that we didn't get to the right video. So that was his pinned video, actually from January 11th, 2020. So maybe the other video is here somewhere. Okay. So I'm way behind on reading chat. So Jim says, did you notice there weren't any calls to arm blacks after Buffalo's shooting? I remember Nixon was all about law and order. Read the chat. I'm trying to read the chat. Jim says nothing's going to happen with gun laws until good people rise through the streets. Robin says, I believe Andrea wanted you to play what you just played. Yes, I was trying to play that, but I was being distracted by chat on my phone from somebody who was trying to join us who didn't understand how to use the website. She got confused in the banner at the top that promotes the website and how to create one. Jim says no amount of dead children will be enough to rein in guns. Crystal says Matthew Cook does wonderful videos. Andrea says, I believe you're right about the dead children not influencing the Republicans. Jim says, I'm not a conspiracist, but I think the power behind the power in the U.S. wants to seriously reduce the population here. Andrea agrees, yes, the children, sadly. Money is all they care about, says Robin. That's all they care about. Andrea says the founding member of Bon Jovi just died. Money talks, BS walks, says Andrea. Jim says the revolution will not be televised. Robin says, I believe you played the right video in the beginning. Andrea looks frustrated, and part of the reason why is because there were two similarly looking videos, and when I went to Matthew Cook to look for the video that Politics Girl had shared, he had a pin video, and I didn't know that was not the same video. I discarded the fact that it was pinned. So let me go back and get the title of the video that Politics Girl shared, so I'll know what I'm looking for when I go to Matthew Cook's page. So the title of the video that she shared, the GOP is responsible for blocking gun laws. Okay, so that's what I showed, but it seems like everything was different. GOP responsible for blocking gun laws. I mean, it looks like Rex Chapman was the one who shared it, that Matthew Cook was the one who authored it, and Matthew Cook then retweeted it. So all of the videos should have been there. Was any part of the video missing? That was what we were trying to establish, was the video missing or not missing? Or was there lag and you didn't see it because it didn't play everything out to you? So that I don't know. Jim says an uprising will not be sufficient without systemic change. Robin says my plan is to laugh in as many of these idiots' faces as I can for as long as I can. So. Our system as governments is still entirely based on the need to continue the slave trade, only they're not called slaves now, they're called employees, says Jim. Andrea says she is in with Robin on the plan to laugh as many of the idiots for as long as she can. I'm about to go, just headphones. Andrea asked, did we lose Crystal Anderson? Looks like we did. No, nothing was missing. Okay. So we ended up seeing two videos instead of one because I was trying to play the video again and wound up playing another video. So anyway. So Andrea says to Robin, come to Florida, obviously to get him to help vote for people that we want to get in. Crystal says she is here. So she's here. So, anything else interesting here? Lynette says, aloha, ali ali oxenfree. Ha, forgot my password and has uninstalled Twitch. Too many. What's the subject? We started off with talk about the January 6th committee that's coming up this week on the 9th. And we got into other topics, including asking about how each other were doing. And we got into other topics regarding gun control. And we got into things that were on the Politics Girl page about the attempt by the Republican Party to limit people's right to vote. And we got into how this fact that gun laws go back as far as not allowing Black people to have guns. And we looked at a video. So, yeah, that's what we looked into tonight so far. And that's, Jim says it's not easy to maintain a free and fair democracy. It takes work, and most people are too lazy. Robin says his mom watches all the same shows but never chats, and Andrea says that's okay. Jim says, sorry, my space bar is acting up again. It happens. The other day, I spilled water on my keyboard, Jim, and my keyboard on the other computer is kind of like sticky, but I'm able to use it, thank goodness. But it's amazing how water can get with other things, the dirt that's on your keyboard, and just make the keys sticky. It's much easier to complain than actually do anything. Yes, that is most people's problem. They enjoy complaining far too much more than actually fixing something. I don't know how much longer you all want to talk about things, but maybe we need a little bit of happy ending times. So let's see, can I add that to stream? This is Mary Trump's cat, and it says on here, Lyndon's surgery went well. Cone of shame notwithstanding, he's recuperating nicely. That was on Saturday. She puts happy Catterday. So there's your cat for the day. Crystal says, I'm actually tired of the complaints. Time to do something. Jim says, not everyone is tied up with what athlete is screwing up or which actor is in trouble or what's happening with some new entertainment. Did you see the floating emojis on the Facebook page? No, I can't see the Facebook page, because all I can see is like a chat window thing that is within the program that I use. So I don't see the floating emojis that pertain to the Facebook. I'd have to go to my phone to see them. But I did see that Facebook likes were generated. So yes, I can tell that you've been doing stuff. No. Robin says, I have 2 older cats, Snookums and Gumball. Jim says the Romans created circuses to occupy the people so they wouldn't worry about what the government is doing. Yes, it is time. The article on thoughts and prayers was interesting. So Andrea mentioned that the founding member of Bon Jovi died. So I don't know who that is. I was curious about that. So GCH. So he was the bassist in the band, the one that founded the band. Sometimes everybody thinks that the name of the band is centered around John Bon Jovi, and I guess in a way it is. And then people might mistakenly think that he founded the band, but it was the bassist, that founded the band. And that's interesting. So. Andrea says, Crystal Anderson, get involved with local Dems. I make calls for Dems during voting time. I also do texting for different Dem candidates in other states. Jim says, especially in this time of gross inequality, people need to put aside the trivia shit and focus on how they can make this place better. Andrea asks, so what should we do then? Robin says, I started off watching Randy Rhoads and Tom Hartman. Lynette said that was the same article that said that it's been overused. Time to do something, especially with war guns. Andrea says, I like Tom Hartman. Robin Brazel said, I would have missed that trivia question, the Bon Jovi. Well, here's the thing about Bon Jovi, and I'm going to get Jim's ire by bringing up the competing band. Bon Jovi is essentially, to me, the band that went into prominence in my world when there was no more Journey out there. When Steve Perry disappeared, then Bon Jovi showed up, and Bon Jovi became the hot band. So that's who Bon Jovi is to me. Doesn't mean I don't like Bon Jovi. It just means that in my world, Bon Jovi gets played enough, and the only Bon Jovi I actually own is one of the more recent albums. I own no other Bon Jovi albums whatsoever. So I know very little about them, except for the fact that I think I can sing their stuff because I've heard it enough times, and I won't do that tonight. But whatever. I like John Such. Is his name Bon Jovi? No, John Bon Jovi is the lead singer. So Such was the bassist. So I should probably quickly bring up who he is so you'll know which one he was, so you can see his picture. So I will quickly do that. That's Mr. Such. That's who he is. Oh, Robin, you've seen Slippery When Wet. Yeah, you're probably more into that stuff than I am, but you know, the time when I started choosing my own concerts dates back to the year 1986. So anything that happened before that, I didn't choose on my own. So anyway, Jim says shootings in 3 cities killed 9 people and wounded 24 more on Saturday night and Sunday morning. The latest outbreaks of gun violence in the wake of 3 prior mass shootings. Lynette asks if Crystal is the same chat friend from Hal and Andrew. Lynette, Crystal is Crystal Anderson. So I don't know if you two have been chatting with each other. Lynette says there's a shooting or more than one a day. Yes. Crystal says she lost her internet, so I guess she's back. Welcome back, Crystal. I wish there was a way to merge everybody between the things. So for you, Lynette, who is on Facebook by yourself, we have if you've made familiar with them, we have Andrea Brower from YouTube. We have Robin Brazel, Brasel from YouTube. We have Jim the Geek from YouTube, and we have Crystal Anderson from YouTube. Lynette asks if Crystal Anderson recognizes her name, Lynette Kuhoa, if I'm saying it correctly. Lynette says hi to Jim. Robin says, I saw Kiss every year. They came to Evansville starting in 1978. Crystal says, I've been on Facebook now and then, but mostly on YouTube. Lynette says, I'll go back to see about YouTube. Jim says hello to you, Lynette. Crystal says there's another Crystal, and I think she's on Facebook. Yep. Jim says, so just stream in one platform. I could do that. I was just afraid that we wouldn't get anybody, and I didn't know which one people would want to be in. The problem stems from the fact that this is how the website looks. So let me bring that up. So let me bring the website up. So let me get it full screen. Put my mouse back over here. This is how the website looks. And to me, this is as straightforward as it gets, because the website has what it has on it. So it has the title, it's got a calendar, it's got a Facebook, it's got a YouTube, it's got a Twitch, it's got Twitter, it's got Discord. So I know what all these mean. And when I put this website together, there wasn't any way that I could figure out how to name these things. And I figured that most people by now knew what all of these things mean. But apparently, not everybody knows what all of these things mean. And so that was what was confusing to Lynette, is that she didn't know which thing to click for Facebook and which to do for YouTube and so on. And so that was why it was hard for Lynette to get into the website. But the other thing that was getting Lynette mixed up was this thing up here at the top of the website that says that you can start creating a website. And I'm just wondering if she couldn't read this and click there instead, because that's what she was explaining to me. So, but all this is the website. I put the website together. I tried to make it easier for people to get to things. I put the contact information in there for people so that they would know how to contact us and so forth. And the idea was to just go out there and share the website so that people could get here and get here by their choosing and participate in Discord, and me only have to post one time instead of multiple times. Because it's extremely difficult to self-promote your own. So Jim says, problem is most people see the string of logos and don't realize those are stream links. Yes, that's the problem. If they've never been to a website before, they have no clue that they're links. I've seen people on Facebook who don't realize that they can click a photo and expand the photo, or that they can click a photo and start playing the video, or that they can click a photo and read the article. So you all are talking concerts tonight. I find that so fascinating, because last week we talked about concerts and like everybody was whatever about hearing it. The one thing that I would love to do as I'd love to get each one of you to talk on camera or at least on microphone, because then I wouldn't have to do all the talking. I used to win tickets to go to concerts. That was my wife's gift, is she could win a lot of stuff. She would win concerts and other things. So we used to get concert tickets and other things that we could go to and do. Jim says you don't want to see me. I'm half naked. There are ways to do it this way, because you can. Can I do it on here? I can do it. I can do it there. You can actually talk like this, and you can just be a floating bubble and just talk like this instead of being seen. So yeah. Crystal says my internet's so bad, I don't think I could be able to do that right now in my life. Yeah. Robin says I won some David Copperfield tickets years ago. Andrea says bad enough I do talk when I don't have pink eye. Crystal says I don't get much of a chance to go on concerts. Do miss doing that, and I don't want to go by myself. The only one I went to by myself was Trans-Siberian Orchestra. It was great, and I go to the Magic Castle now and again. I actually went to go see Paul McCartney because he came to Orlando, and that's the biggest, fanciest concert I've ever been to, and boy, was it astounding. And if I was somebody who had connections or whatever and a way to get a recording of it, that'd be awesome. But I will just tell you that he was phenomenal, and it was very, very good. And he came on the stage after he left the stage. He came back on the stage, and he had the Ukrainian flag in his hand, and they were carrying other flags, including the pride flag and the American flag. So that was really, really good. Andrea says, I went to Tampa Bay Rock by myself. No one wanted to go. Had free tickets, so went by myself and sat up in the top 2 rows. No one else was nice. My dad took me to see David Copperfield, says Crystal, a lot of years ago. Crystal says, no TSO, I just love their music. TSO is somebody that I would consider going to see. I just haven't lucked into knowing when and being able to go before. But now, yes, I could go because I don't have any obligations that would prevent me from going unless there's a conflict with work or something else going on. don't remember if I went to see a magic show. Maybe a smaller magic show. Crystal says this show is wonderful. I can imagine so. I've seen TSO shows that are recorded that you can play off the internet. Andrea would love to see David Copperfield. I'd like to go see Hal Sparks, but he hasn't come to this area. And every time Stuttering John comes, it's always a different part of Florida. I couldn't get Stuttering John to say where he went, but if McCartney only came to Orlando, then Stuttering John and I were at the same concert, but I don't know where he was sitting. He was probably sitting in a better place than I was, I'll bet. I saw Phantom of the Opera twice in LA, says Crystal, and I would like to go see Hal sometime. The first time and only time I've seen Phantom of the Opera was on PBS, and it was because the station that I work for was airing it, and I had to stay up and watch it, and I watched it through the whole 3 hours because we had so many technicals trying to get it to work that I made sure that it aired. So I watched it in its entirety. Andrea says, where did Jim and Robin go? Robin is back. Robin says, David Copperfield disappeared on stage, then popped up in the crowd. No way he could have traveled that fast. He's got a twin. I don't know. Well, Jim's not here, so I'll tell the thing because I don't think I told this last week. I actually saw a Journey from like the 23rd row or something to that effect, and I was sitting in that row. And what did the lead singer Steve Augeri do at the time? He decides to go through the row behind me, the 24th row, and he walked through the row. And I was like, oh, if I was just one more row back. Jim is silent. Jim just put his click up there. One little dash. Is that a censored comment, Jim? Is that what that is supposed to be? Does anybody have any more topics they want to discuss, or should we bring this discussion to a close and come back next week? Because it's been 2 hours and 20 minutes for me away from keyboard. Robin says, my mom's favorite is Journey. I love them too. Robin, I'm going to see Resurrection, a Journey tribute, and I will be in the second physical available row. So I will get to see them up close. This is different than other chats because you have to be more active. Yes. Yes, I try to interact with people. I've seen Cross Angel. He's good, says Andrea. Henning was good too. Crystal says, I've also saw Queen, but not their original group. I've seen Journey with Steve Perry, but it was the lineup with Steve Perry, Jonathan Cain, Neil Sean, Randy Jackson, and Michael Baird. That was the first time I went. Then it was with Steve and Jerry for 1, 2 times. Then it was with Jeff Scott Soto for 2 times. Then it was with Arnel Pineda for 2 times. I read all the comments. I read pretty much all the comments. Good night, Robin. Thank you for coming in and having fun with us. Penn and Teller were wonderful to see too, says Crystal. Andrea says, good night to Robin. See you next week, Sundays at 7. Crystal says they like to do a lot of things. Penn and Teller are real interesting. I like watching Penn and Teller on their show. Excuse me. I'm getting tired. Thank you for coming, Robin. Really glad to have you. It's getting close to about 2.5 hours for me. I think I'm getting ready to say goodnight to everybody. Crystal says they're really great and they love to promote magic. Yes. Andrea says that's what this show is designed to do for you. You all in mind. So, folks, I think I'm going to bring this one to a close, and we'll convene next week with a new principal topic, and you will bring your topics, and we will do freedom of speech and you to let you have your say in what you want to talk about. So, see you all next week. Let's go back to the comments and do the other one over here. Jim says, good night, Ken and Andrea, and everyone else too. Andrea says, good night. Crystal says, good night. And thanks. And here we go. We're closing the show.